downtown Chicago. Ito. Ito sa dulo. Kita na ito. Pag umulan, makatago tadi. Architectural tour is a 75-minute tour around downtown Chicago. Riding a boat on the river, on the lake.
Never been less talk about where we are. We're in Chicago, Illinois, the home for 2.7 million people. 613 parks in Chicago. There's two main bodies of water. To the left is Lake Michigan, part of the Great Lakes system where 21% of fresh water is on Earth. We're currently on the Chicago River. Let me tell you about the first settler, Chicago. Jean-Baptiste Point du Sable, who in the 1700s was a free black man of Haitian descent who moved out to this area in the 1780s, built a trading post and started a homestead where the Apple Store is today, becoming the first non-indigenous resident of Chicago. Jean-Baptiste Point du Sable. People have been living here for hundreds of years, primarily from the Council 3 Flyers, the Ottawa, the Ojibwe, and the Potawatomi tribes. And Chicago actually gets its name from a Potawatomi word. Chicago is derivative of Chicago, which is Potawatomi, land of the sticky onion. That is what Chicago means, land of the sticky onion. Take that big apple, we are a sticky onion. As the sticky onion seems to grow on the shores of this river, leaks seems to grow on this river. Had humble beginnings, starting up about 4 feet wide, 2 feet deep, and is now about 100 feet wide and 20 to 15 feet deep, depending on where you are. Notice that emerald color in this river is from the algae in this river. It's not a dye. A lot of people wonder. But let's get into some architecture. It's my great honor to introduce you to the third tallest building in Chicago. On this right-hand side, we will see the blue glass beauty, the St. Regis Tower, built just 2 years ago, with 6 different colors of blue glass getting lighter as it gets wider. St. Regis Tower, more importantly, it's the third tallest building in Chicago, but it is actually the world's tallest building designed by a female-led architecture firm, Jeannie Gang of Studio Gang. We're very excited to have her work in our city. Quite the girl boss moment. Indeed. A little bit about Jeannie Gang. She was Chicagoland born and raised. She went to Harvard, and in 2011 she won the MacArthur Genius Grant. That means we are floating by a genius's work as we speak. The St. Regis Tower also uses all 3 techniques of how to build a tall building in a windy city. What is the trouble with tall buildings in windy cities? Well, when the wind blows on a building likes to move and sway, a phenomenon called drift. And drift isn't exactly a good thing. It makes your building unstable. You can actually get motion sickness if your building drifts too much at the top. This is when designers start taking advantage of techniques such as blow-through floors to eliminate such drift. If we look at the top there, we'll notice 2 floors towards the top of the St. Regis Tower that look empty, that look undone, that look unfinished. Is that going to be a rooftop bar? No, it's just going to be almost entirely empty to let the wind blow right through. Instead of blowing on the building, creating drift, blows right through, eliminating such drift. Think of a bathroom tub. It's full of water. You pull the plug, the water follows the path of least resistance. We have theoretically pulled the plug on this tower. The wind follows the path of drift. The only trouble, it's a pretty expensive option. A 2-floor penthouse sold for $18.5 million. The St. Regis Tower. They're losing out on a lot of cash, but hey, you gotta do what you gotta do to build a tall building in a windy city. Get another great view of that. Right back. Let's look on this left-hand side. We will see a triangle-shaped hotel, a blue glass building. This is the Swiss Hotel completed in 1989 by an architect named Harry Weiss. We'll see some of his work a little bit later on. All you need to know is he likes triangles. You can see this whole building is a giant triangle. We'll see some more triangles a little bit later. But let's look behind that building. In the second row, you'll see a blue glass structure with white patios. This is Aqua Tower. Looks like a cascading waterfall or crashing wave. Built in 2009, it was formerly the world's tallest building, designed by a female-led architecture firm. Also designed by Jeannie Gang of Studio Gang, who designed the St. Regis Tower. Curious thing about those patios, they're actually geometrically unique. No two patios are exactly the same. This is to maximize the amount of patios with sunlight. They want each patio to have a little bit of sunlight. That is how they're able to accomplish it in the Aqua Tower. This right-hand side, a little further away, we'll see a yellow dome on the top of the structure. This is the Intercontinental Hotel, built in 1929. It was originally the Men's Shriners Athletic Club. And that yellow dome at the top, that onion, was originally blimp parking. The idea is you would ride your blimp into town, get your workout done with your fellow Shriners, and then blimp back home. But they never took advantage of the idea. The Hindenburg disaster happened and nobody really wanted to ride in a blimp. If we look right in front of us, you'll get a great view of the Wrigley Building, this white building that looks like a wedding cake with the clock tower in the center. Built in the 1920s, it's built in a style called Spanish Revivalist, which is an offshoot of European Revivalist styles. This is when American architects were looking across the pond in Europe for the tried and true standards of beauty. America didn't have its own sense of beauty. They had their own style, which was done their own ideas. So they would look across the pond, copy those cathedrals and castles, and paste them in America. That's what you get with the Wrigley Building. It's based off the cathedral in Seville, Spain, and there's 250,000 terracotta tiles on the Wrigley Building in 6 different colors of cream, creating that soft mosaic effect. These tiles are actually so delicate they have to be hand washed each year. There is no power washing for the Wrigley Building. Quite the task indeed. If we look right in front of us, we will see the second tallest building in Chicago. It's the Trump International Hotel and Tower, built in a style we're going to be talking a lot about today called contextualism. This is an architectural style that involves building elegant buildings that play well and flatter its surroundings. Contextualism is a conversation with its context. Contextualism wants buildings to fit in rather than stand out. We can see that with this tower with these 3 patios or setbacks, these 3 terraces. They all have corresponding heights with buildings in the area. This first setback on this right-hand side matches the roof of the Wrigley Building, as we just discussed. The second setback matches the roof of the White Rocket Ship building across the river, the Mather Tower. And that third setback matches the big black box behind Trump Tower, the AMA Plaza. So that's how this building is in conversation with its context. This tower was designed by Adrian Smith, who is often referred to as the world's tallest architect. Not because of his 5'7" stature, but because he designs the world's tallest buildings, including the world's tallest building, the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. If you want to get a sense how tall that structure is, just imagine 2 Trump Towers stacked on top of each other. Quite the building, indeed. There's a 14,000 square foot, 5-bedroom penthouse. The top of Trump Tower features a 360-degree view of the city. Sold for $20 million earlier this year. That's right. I picked it up for the missus and I. Just a little starter home for us. Nice little anniversary gift. Unfortunately, we actually didn't buy it. We actually got outbid $20 million. Couldn't make it happen this year. Maybe next year. On this right-hand side, we have an iconic view of 2 iconic corn cobs coming up. These 2 towers here in Awilco, these 2 towers are an urban experiment built in the 1970s area. It was a business district. You come down, do your work, you go back to the neighborhoods, the suburbs where you live. Nobody really wanted to live around here. But an architect by the name of Bertrand Goldberg was looking to change things. He wanted to change the world that he lived in. He wanted people to live and work in this downtown area like like they did in European cities. But he knew in order to do this, he needed to add all the public amenities that you might have in daily life. And he did just that. He added them right into the towers themselves. These towers originally had convenience stores, retail shops, restaurants, a dry cleaner, car parking, office space, yacht parking, an ice skating rink, a bowling alley, a theater. Truly, a city within a city. Truly, what more do you need? Check out and spawn at the Marina City Apartments. Let's jump across the river. On this left-hand side, we will see the Chicago River Walk. Fairly recent addition to our river, completed in 2009. So bringing people down to the water like never before. You bring people that close to the water, they start caring a lot more about the water quality, creating a positive feedback loop. People care more about the water, more than to improve said water. This left-hand side, we'll see the white granite base of this building with the blue glass. Once you look at the top of the structure, notice that 30-degree pitched roof. Kind of looks like a Greek temple, doesn't it? This is 77 West Wacker, built in a neoclassic style of architecture. This is an architectural style that involves taking classic themes, such as the Greek Parthenon, and remixing it with a modern edge. Think new plus classic. 77 West Wacker was designed by one of the only international architects on our tour today, Ricardo Bofill of Spain, who designed his first building at the age of 17. Quite early. On this right-hand side, we're about to see a big red brick building. This is the Reed Murdoch building, completed in 1914. I want you to notice how it's not symmetrical on the right and left-hand sides of this clock tower. Let's count the bays and windows. On the right-hand side, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bays of windows. On the left-hand side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bays of windows. That's how this building was originally completed. It was originally symmetrical. But in the year 1930, they were looking to expand LaSalle Street, a street we're about to float under. The only trouble is a whole bunch of Reed Murdoch building in the way, so they decided to chop off one of the chunks, readjust the facade, make it look like it never even happened. This left-hand side, we will see a gray building that has a creative name. This is the Builders Building. And it's a great example of how architects like to respect the history of the spaces they're working in. The left-hand side, completed in 1927. The right-hand side, completed in 1987. 60 years apart, and yet these elements are still working in harmony with each other. That's what architects like to do in this city. They like to complement the heritage while also using modern materials and styles. Similar story with this bridge we're about to float in. Wells Street Bridge has a vintage look with those railings and those lamps. Well, this bridge was completed 9 years ago. Notice no rust. It's an almost exact replica of the bridge it replaced, though, built 91 years ago, revitalizing the history. On this right-hand side, you will see the massive Merchandise Mart, completed in 1930. It was the world's largest building. They built the world's largest building because they could. They had the money to do it. It's built in an Art Deco style, a time of American prominence. Notice that Indiana limestone facade, those deep inset windows creating vertical lines that draw your eyes up towards a set back roof. This makes the building look taller than it actually is. It's indicative of this Art Deco style. As I mentioned, rose to prominence in the late 1920s, early 1930s, a time of American prosperity. They have a lot of money to spend on these structures. You are also hearing a jet plane because this weekend is the Chicago Air and Water Show, and they're doing their practices today and tomorrow. The show is on Saturday and Friday. I didn't know if the practices had ended, so I didn't bring it up at the beginning. If you hear any jet planes, those are what's going on. So if you can't hear it, just let me know. We can boost the audio too. But welcome you to the trophy case of the Chicago River. This is Wolf Point, the birthplace of the city of Chicago. Most of these buildings have popped up in the last 5 years, including that structure directly in front of us. A lot of people are told me there's 2 schools of thought. It makes you hungry though. The River Point building, completed in 2017. I want you to notice this parabolic arch on the bottom there. We're doing this because the River Point building is built over train tracks. Since they couldn't build through the train tracks, they brought the foundation upwards and outwards. we are, though. This is the birthplace of the city of Chicago. This is Wolf Point. It's where all three river branches meet. Yeah. In the 1830s, you could find a tavern here and a couple trading posts. The city has only been getting bigger since we're on the topic of some history. Let's talk about this structure right in front of us. This is Fulton House's peachy building. It looks like a box or a rectangle. Built in 1898, it's going to be the oldest building we see on our tour today. While you're looking at it, imagine there is no windows and no balconies, because that was originally completed. Those are the blue angels flying by. This building is a refrigeration building for the meatpacking industry. This building is part of this meatpacking industry. It's a very big industry for Chicago. They would cut meat on the south side of Chicago, send it up to a building such as Fulton House to be frozen, placed on refrigerated train cars going across the country, and occasionally the world. This changed in the 1970s when the meatpacking industry left Chicago. And our good friend Harry Weiss saw this building and said, hey, this would be a great place for 106 condominiums. To start the renovation process, he had to wait for the building to thaw. It took 3 months for this building to thaw. They had to cut through 3-foot thick walls. Look at those balconies. That's how thick those walls originally were when they got into them. They're filled with horsehair and cork, the popular insulation at the time. So Harry Weiss led that renovation project. He also led the completion of these residential homes on the left-hand side. Notice those triangles on the side. These are the river cottages. And Harry Weiss was kind of considered a joke for building residential on the North Ranch. At the time, the river was quite unpleasant. It was quite stinky. It wasn't something you wanted to live around. But Harry Weiss had the foresight to see that things might change. And they did. One of these river cottages recently sold for $2.2 million. Reflects a changing attitude the city has had towards this river. See another example of this. Right-hand side, the East Bay Club. It's a high-end athletic facility. Notice how it builds up right against the river, putting its back towards the river, treating the river like an alleyway. But the transformation will happen before our very eyes. On this left-hand side, we'll see the Kinsey Park townhomes. Whoa! The river is a highlight. The river is the main event. The river is why you are purchasing this property. Reflects a changing attitude this city has had towards this river. We're about to turn around. Check out all the cool things on the south branch of the river. We'll be back in just a quick minute. His father's offices in the film. Yeah, it looks down at the parade for the Ferris fans on board today. We're back to Wolf Point. Let's look right in front of us. We will see a blue glass building that looks like a Y on the bottom, looks like an upside down wine bottle. This is 150 North Riverside. It's built in a next-gen contemporary style of architecture. We will see several of these structures today. It's a modern style that focuses on performance and innovation and sustainability. A lot of ingenuity in this structure. This plot of land sat empty for 80 years. That's because there is a river on one side, train tracks on the other, leaving only 39 feet to build the base of this building. They use something called caissons. Caissons can be thought of as concrete columns. They're about 12 feet in diameter. There's 12 of them. They start 120 feet down at bedrock and go all the way to the top of the structure. They start with a strong core, wrap the rest of the building around it. They also use water tanks in this building to eliminate drift. It's the second part in our three-part series, how to build tall buildings in a windy city. It's called inertial slosh dampers. Remember, the enemy is drift. And at the top of this building, you can't see it on the outside, but on the inside, there's 12 tanks of water filled with 160,000 gallons of water. So when the wind blows on the building in one direction, the water sloshes in the other direction, dampening the movement, acting like a shock absorber, and most importantly, limiting the amount of drift. You see, this building is still allowed to move, which is helpful. We don't want our buildings to bend, not break. It's just doing so in a much more controlled manner, eliminating a lot of that drift. So that's the second part in our three-part series, how to build tall buildings in a windy city. We'll talk about the third part in just a quick minute here. Let's talk about another structure built in this next-gen contemporary style. On this left-hand side, we will see the Bank of America building, completed just last year. You'll notice these silver trident-like supports underneath on the bottom. These are holding the building up. They're doing this because in order to build on the river these days, you have to allow at least 30 feet of setback to continue the river walk. So the designers decided to vault to that third floor, add these tripod-like I-beams underneath to make it happen. Think of these buildings like modern-day iPhones, sleek and elegant on the outside, but packed with cutting-edge technology on the inside. We have a treat for everyone. We're about to see 5 buildings built right next to each other, touching each other, butting up against each other. This isn't something we see too often in Chicago. Oh, wait. We're actually seeing 5 buildings built in chronological order. We'll see some buildings built right next to each other a little bit later. And we're going to see a time machine. Going back in time, 5 buildings built in chronological order. Going to be a great visual demonstration of the evolution of architecture. Our first stop is Art Deco Canyon. We call it Art Deco Canyon because there's an Art Deco building flanking us from the right and left-hand sides. Let's first start with 2 North Riverside Plaza. This is classic Art Deco. Notice that Indiana limestone facade. Those vertical lines draw your eyes up towards a set-back roof. Remember, this is a time of American prominence when the country has a lot of money to spend on these structures. We're floating into black box modernism now. On this right-hand side, we'll see 2 black boxes. You might be thinking, hey, what happened? They're just plain block boxes. What happened to all the extravagance and opulence of the Art Deco era? Well, it's because of 2 events. The first event in 1929, there was a stock market crash, which led to an extended economic disaster. The second event was World War II. These 2 events combined led to almost no office buildings built between the years 1930 and 1957. When the country went back to building office buildings with Gateway Centers 1 and 2, in the 1960s, things were different. Priorities had changed. These were children of the Great Depression and were a lot more frugal than the Art Deco generation before them. They started stripping these buildings down of all the decorations, started focusing much more on the business and innovation happening on the inside of these structures. What you're left with is just a skeleton, skin, and space. The skeleton, that's the exposed steel frame. The skin, that's all these windows and space. Hey, it's where you get the work done. Think less lights prevent such things from happening. Let me introduce you to the king of the Chicago skyline, topping out at 1,451 feet, 442 meters. The black building with the 2 white antennas is the tallest building in Chicago. It's the Sears Willis Tower on this right-hand side. Can I get a new? Can I get an ah? Built in 1974, this was the tallest building on the planet. A record it would hold for 24 years. It's a long time to hold that record. It was the tallest building in the country until 2014 when One World Trade Center was completed in New York City. But the roof of the Sears Willis Tower is actually 83 feet taller than the roof of One World Trade Center. How does that work out? Well, according to the Council on Tall Buildings and Urban Habitat, a real organization, the height of a building is determined from your lowest open-air entrance to the top of your structure, not including Antennas. Since antennas serve a practical purpose, a mechanical purpose, they are not included in the height. But there's a loophole. Spires are counted. Since spires are decorative, no practical purpose included in the height. Cut the story short, One World Trade Center has a spire. Got us on a technicality. Not much you can do. If you look at the Sears Willis Tower, you'll notice that it isn't one giant column, but a series of 9 columns at varying heights. This is a technique called bundling, and it's the third and final technique of our 3-part series, how to build tall buildings in a windy city. As the story goes, Dr. Fuzzler comes at the office late one night with his fellow chief structural engineers, and they were messing around with some cigarettes for some inspiration. They realized that one cigarette all by itself is a pretty flimsy structure. It falls stunning view of this river and these buildings around us. Very cool to check out. Let's jump across the river though. On the left-hand side, you'll see the Wrigley Building once again with the clock tower. Let's jump across the street, see the beige building with the vertical lines. This is the Tribune Tower, built in 1926. If the Wrigley Building is trying to copy a Spanish cathedral, the Tribune Tower is trying to copy a French cathedral. It's built in a French Gothic revivalist style based on the cathedral in Normandy, France. Look at the top there, you can really see that handcrafted nature, that extravagant nature. There's a competition to design the Tribune Tower. The Tribune owner said he wanted the most beautiful office building in the world. There was 263 applicants from 23 different countries. 2 New Yorkers won, but to celebrate this competition, they included fragments of structures from all across the globe and embedded them into the sides of the Tribune Tower. You could walk around the Tribune Tower, see fragments from the Taj Mahal, the Great Wall of China, and the Pyramids of Giza. It's very cool to check out. On the left-hand side, we will see a flagship Apple store. Super new, super high-tech, completed in 2017. I want you to notice those glass walls. Those are partially load-bearing, holding up that super light carbon fiber roof. It's hugging that horizon. The roof is designed to look like an iPad or a MacBook Pro. Also notice those glass panes in the glass walls. Each of those sections is just one giant singular sheet of glass. Very cool. If you ever get a chance to go visit this building, just notice how large these sheets are. A lot of work there. This left-hand side, you'll see the NBC logo on the top of this structure. This is NBC Tower. Has a lot of Art Deco themes with those vertical lines and that setback roof. Well, this building was completed in 1989 in a style called Echo Deco, which can be thought of as a love letter to the Art Deco era, a revivalist idea of Art Deco themes, just using modern materials. It's also just a lot of fun to say. Echo, right here, great opportunity to use the restroom or get a drink from the hobby at the bar. It's the last call for both of those themes. Actually, I'm gonna hop off the mic. I'm gonna close this tour out for just a few minutes, but feel free to stand up and enjoy the skyline. You can take some photos if you like. Please just don't stand on any of the benches. Appreciate that, but stand up, enjoy the views, enjoy the skyline. I can help you take some photos if you'd like. Just let me know. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Thank you for your time.
I'll end my vlog here, guys. After in the structural tour here in downtown Chicago.